Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Prosodic and symbolic mental. It is a theory of the way in which the flow of speech is organized into a finite set of phonological units. It's also, however, a theory of interaction between phonology and the components of the grammar. Prosody is the study of all the elements of language that contribute to word, acoustic, and rhythmic effect, chiefly in poetry, but also in prose. Prosody was the study of metre and its uses in lyric, epic, and dramatic verse. In sophisticated modern criticism, however, the scope of prosodic study has been expanded until it now concords itself with what the 20th century poet Ezra Pound called the articulation of the total sound of a poem, the examination of speech, of aspect of speech that extend beyond individual vowels and consonant is known as the study of subfragmental or prosody. The term prosody is sometimes used as a synonym only for intonation. Intonation is only the intense of a range of phenomena properly known as prosody, which we use as a synonym for supramental intonation being part of it. Prosodic features are said to be supramental since they are properties of units of speech larger than the individual segment. It is necessary to distinguish between the personal background characteristic that belong to an individual voice. For example, their habitual pitch range and the independently variable prosodic features that are used contrastively to communicate meaning. For example, the use for change in pitch to indicate a difference between statement and question. Personal characteristics are not linguistically significant. Next. Stresses. Definition. In linguistic and particularly phonology, stress or action is the relative emphasis or prominence given to a certain syllable in a word or to a certain word in a parser or sentence. The emphasis is typically caused by such properties as increased loudness and vowel length, full articulation of the vowel, and change in tone. The terms stress and action are often used synonymously in that context but are sometimes distinguished. For example, when emphasis is procedure through pitch alone, it is called pitch action, and when procedure through length alone, it is called quantitative action. When caused by a combination of various intercipient properties, it is called stress action or dynamic action. Word stress rules. One word has only one stress. We can only stress vowels, not consonant. Here are some more rather complicated rules that can help you understand where to put the stress. But do not rely on them too much because there are many expressions. It is better to feel the music of the language and to add the stress naturally. Next, tone. In linguistic variation in the pitch of the voice while speaking, the word tone is usually applied to those languages called tone language, in which pitch serves to help distinguish word and grammatical categories A, E. In switch pitch, characteristics are used the different on word from another word that is otherwise identical in its sequence of consonant and vowels. For example, main in Mandarin carries Chinese may mean either device or slow, depending on its speech. In tone language, speech is a property of words. But what is important is not absolute pitch, but relative pitch. Tone language usually make use of a limited number of pitch contracts. These contracts are called to tone of the language. The domain of the tones is usually the syllable. There are two main types of tone language: register tone or level tone language and contour tone language. Register tone language use tones that are level A, E. They have relative steady state pitches, which differ with ranger to being relatively higher or lower. This is characteristic of many tone language is West Africa. In contour tone language, at least some of the tones must be described in terms of pitch movements. Such a series and false or more complex movements, such as false. This is characteristic of many tone language of South Asia. Next. Pitch. Pitch range is divided into three parts as high, mid, and low. High pitch range indicates an information contracts. For example, I'm going to hard for mid pitch, which is the speaker's model pitch, is used to make a statement in a natural manner, as Brazil. The neutral on market mid pitch range, which is the speaker's model pitch, is used to make a statement in a natural manner. Low pitch range is used when the speaker wants to assert that two items in success tone units are in some sense equivalent. For example, told you already. Next. Next. Intonation. Following intonation describe how the voice falls on the final stressed syllable of a parse or a group of words. For example, where's the nearest post office? Rising intonation describe how the voice raised at the end of a sentence. Raising intonation is common in yes, no question. For example, I hear the health country is expanding, so is that the actor. Fall fall rise intonation describes how the voice falls and then rises. We use fall rise intonation at the off end of statement when we want to say that we are not sure or when we may have more to add. For example, it trained for a very day in the first week, but things improved after that. Next, next, length. In phonetic, length or quantity is a feature of sound that are distinctly longer than or sound. Other sound. There are long vowels and well as long consonant. The latter are often called geminates. Many languages do not have distinctive length. Among the languages that have this distinct length, there are only a few that have both distinct vowel lengths and distinctive consonant length. It is more common that R is only one or they depend on each other. The language that distinguish between different lengths have usually long and short sound. According to some languages, Estonian and some Sami language have three phonemic, meaning distinguishing length for consonant and vowels. Some Low German Low Saxon variants in the vicinity of Hamburg, and some mostly Franconian and Ripuarian Franconian variants to do Saktari speaking a pair of a long sound and a short sound should be identical except for their length. In certain languages, however, there are brands of phonemes that are traditionally considered to be long, short pairs, even though they differ not only in length, but also in quality. For intense English, long, which short I, which is next. Okay, thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.